Welcome to College Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: NSW government hopes Commonwealth will help pay for $1 million police presence at Israel-Gaza protests. International students have returned to U.S. colleges, fueled by a surge from India. Only 14% of U.S. voters say Joe Biden has made them better off. What are Trump's plans if he returns to the White House? Number of Americans studying in mainland China falls sharply. NSW government hopes Commonwealth will help pay for $1 million police presence at Israel-Gaza protests. ABC. The Premier of New South Wales, Chris Minns, has said that he hopes the Australian federal government will help to cover the costs of policing major protests relating to the Israel-Gaza conflict. Minns said that his government will be asking the Commonwealth for assistance, with the cost to taxpayers for large rallies exceeding $1 million Australian dollars, $715,000. Pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli rallies have been regularly taking place in Sydney since October 7, with about 800 police officers working overtime to manage recent protests. International students have returned to U.S. colleges, fueled by a surge from India. Yahoo! The number of international students enrolling in U.S. universities increased by 12% in the 2022 to 2023 academic year, with India providing the largest increase, a study by the Institute of International Education and the State Department has found. The number of students from India increased by 35% to 269,000, while China sent 290,000 students, its third consecutive year of decline. The report said that the increased number of Indian students is due to a growing population, increased competition from UK and Canadian universities, and travel restrictions in Asia caused by the pandemic. Only 14% of U.S. voters say Joe Biden has made them better off. Financial Times. Only 14% of American voters believe they are better off financially now than when Joe Biden took office, according to a poll conducted for the Financial Times and the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business. The survey found that almost 70% of voters thought Biden's economic policies had either hurt the U.S. economy or had no impact, while only 26% said his policies had helped. Rising prices and inflation were cited as the biggest financial stress and the most significant threat to the U.S. economy in the next 6 months. What are Trump's plans if he returns to the White House? South China Morning Post. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has outlined a sweeping set of policy goals for his potential second term in office. His plans include dismantling the deep state by firing career employees and cracking down on government officials who leak to reporters. Trump also aims to secure the U.S.-Mexico border by initiating a mass deportation operation, expanding the border wall, and reimposing his travel ban on Muslim-majority countries. In terms of trade, he plans to implement tariffs on imported goods and phase out Chinese imports of essential goods. Other policy areas include foreign policy, transgender rights, energy, education, homelessness, and public safety, among others. While some of Trump's plans would likely face legal challenges or opposition from Congress, his campaign and allied groups are assembling policy books with detailed plans. His policy agenda for a potential second term reflects his focus on issues such as immigration, trade, and national security, which differ significantly from President Joe Biden's proposals. Trump's plans, if implemented, would represent a dramatic government overhaul and have far-reaching consequences. As the race for the Republican nomination for the 2024 presidential election heats up, Trump is currently dominating the field and has already outlined his policy goals. However, it remains to be seen whether he will secure the nomination and have the opportunity to implement his agenda. Number of Americans studying in mainland China falls sharply. South China Morning Post. The number of American students studying in mainland China has dropped to its lowest level in over a decade, with only 211 students studying there in the 2021-22 school year, according to new data. In contrast, there were over 11,000 American students in mainland China in the 2018-19 school year. However, Chinese students continue to vastly outnumber any other foreign group in the U.S., with 289,526 Chinese students studying there during the 2022-23 school year. The U.S. still hosts nearly double the number of Chinese students compared to the next largest host, the UK. So what if it's only November? Predictions for 2024. Bloomberg. As we approach the end of the year, major investment groups are publishing their outlook documents for the year ahead, despite still having several weeks of 2023 to go. While this practice is somewhat silly, it serves a purpose as it allows analysts to step back and see the bigger picture, enabling them to publish ideas that never made their way into weekly notes. The year-ahead exercise can help these analysts make money and beat the market if their ideas are correct. One upcoming event that could impact world markets is Tuesday's publication of U.S. consumer price inflation for October. If the core CPI, excluding food and fuel, does not fall, this would be the first time in a year that it hasn't fallen, and would be at a level that remains too high for the Federal Reserve's comfort. A significant rise in the core CPI would be a big surprise and could create a mess. Argentina's presidential candidates clash ahead of pivotal poll. Financial Times. Argentina's two presidential candidates, Sergio Massa and Javier Milei, presented contrasting visions for the country during a final debate ahead of a runoff election on November 14. Massa, a Peronist economy minister, focused on tackling poverty and inflation, while libertarian outsider Milei attacked his rival's performance and promised to abolish the central bank. Polls show the candidates are neck and neck, and the televised debate was seen as a last chance to sway voters. Massa reminded viewers that Milei had worked for billionaire Eduardo Yernikian, while Milei accused Massa of destroying incomes. U.S. Senator Tim Scott drops out of Republican presidential primary. Financial Times. U.S. Senator Tim Scott has dropped out of the 2024 Republican presidential primary race, leaving fewer candidates to challenge Donald Trump for the party's nomination. Scott, who has long been considered a rising star within the Republican Party, had a lackluster campaign and struggled to gain support in national polls. Fellow Republican Nikki Haley, the former U.S. ambassador to the UN, has fared better in the polls, with a national polling average of 9%. Scott's exit follows that of Mike Pence, Trump's former vice president. Trump currently leads the Republican primary by more than 40 percentage points. Virtual reality could be key to easing fears in surgical patients, study. South China Morning Post. A randomized clinical trial carried out in Hong Kong has shown that the use of virtual reality, VR, can reduce preoperative anxiety in patients. The study, published in the peer-reviewed journal JAMA Network Open, used 360-degree first-person immersive technology to enable patients to experience a surgical procedure and post-anesthesia care unit before their operation. The trial found that the VR tour lessened anxiety, stress, preparedness, and pain among the 74 participants. The researchers suggest wider testing to explore VR's potential in other health service settings. Trump labels political enemies vermin, echoing likes of Hitler, Mussolini. The Sydney Morning Herald. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has faced criticism for using dehumanizing language towards his domestic opponents and critics during a Veterans Day speech. Trump referred to those on the other side of the aisle as vermin and suggested they pose a greater threat to the U.S. than countries such as Russia, China, or North Korea. Historians have compared Trump's language to that of authoritarian leaders, stating that it is the language that dictators use to instill fear and strip opponents of their constitutional rights. Trump's use of the word vermin drew particular backlash, with comparisons made to Hitler and Mussolini. Braverman's future hangs in balance amid cabinet reshuffle speculation. The Independent. Speculation is growing that UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak may carry out a ministerial reshuffle this week, which could see Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary, moved from her position. This comes after Braverman was accused of stoking tensions at a pro-Palestinian march on Armistice Day. The march saw clashes between far-right counter-protesters and police, with 7 people being charged over disorder. Braverman has called for pro-Palestinian protests to be stopped, claiming that London streets are being polluted by hate, violence, and anti-Semitism. However, her comments have been criticized for not addressing the actions of far-right counter-protesters. The Met Police have charged 7 men with offenses including assault on an emergency worker, criminal damage, and possession of an offensive weapon. The police made 145 arrests during the protests, mostly of counter-protesters, and 9 officers were injured. The clashes occurred as police prevented a violent crowd from reaching the cenotaph. Braverman has faced criticism for her previous comments referring to pro-Palestinian mobs and accusing the police of bias for allowing the rally to go ahead. Some have accused her of emboldening far-right counter-protesters. Rishi Sunak is reportedly planning to strengthen the police's powers to deal with protests in the wake of the violence on Armistice Day. He is said to be looking to tighten laws to make it easier to ban marches and prosecute those glorifying terrorism. Sunak is expected to meet with Metropolitan Police Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley in the coming days to discuss the issue and prevent a repeat of the recent clashes. Surge in graduates stuck in jobs not needing a degree. Telegraph. Over 40% of university-educated workers outside of London are in jobs that do not require a degree, according to the Institute for Fiscal Studies. The figure has increased from 31% since 1993. The increase in better paid roles has been largely concentrated in London, meaning that graduates from other areas must move to find employment requiring their qualifications. However, this is often not an option for those from poorer backgrounds. The increase in high-paid roles in the UK has been 240% in Inner London since 1993, compared to 41% in Cheshire. Russian officers killed in act of revenge in occupied Ukrainian city. The Independent. 3 Russian officers have been killed in an act of revenge in the occupied Ukrainian city of Melitopol. The blast occurred during a meeting attended by Russian National Guard and FSB intelligence service officers. Ukrainian intelligence officials have said that the attack was carried out by representatives of the local resistance movement. Russia has not commented on the deaths or the attack on its headquarters. Melitopol is a key location in Russia's defense of the lands it controls in Ukraine's south. The Ukrainian military has been intensifying its attacks against Russian military and logistics assets. LeBron sits with injury while Davis, Hachimura propel Lakers to 116-110 win over Trail Blazers. The Toronto Star. The Los Angeles Lakers defeated the Portland Trail Blazers 116-110 on Sunday night despite the absence of LeBron James, who missed the game due to a bruised left calf. Anthony Davis led the Lakers with 30 points and 13 rebounds, while Rui Hachimura contributed 19 points, including 8 crucial points in the final minutes of the game. The Lakers held a 13-point lead early in the fourth quarter, but the Blazers mounted a comeback and trailed by just 1 point with 3 minutes remaining. However, the Lakers managed to hold on for the win. The Blazers have now lost 3 straight games after a 3-game winning streak. A new poll finds more than a third of Americans aren't concerned about rise in flu, COVID and RSV cases. Yahoo! A new survey from the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center found 35% of Americans are not concerned about an increase in respiratory virus cases, such as RSV, the flu, and COVID-19. 66% believe they will make a quick recovery if they contract the virus, while 1/3 do not believe they need to be vaccinated if they are not at a high risk of complications. One of the lessons we have learned from the COVID pandemic is that the landscape of respiratory viruses can change quickly, and so can public attitude and beliefs about communicable respiratory diseases, said Dr. Megan Conroy, pulmonologist and clinical assistant professor of internal medicine at The Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center. The survey has concerned doctors who believe the population has become complacent and are failing to account for the risks still posed by the viruses. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your favorite observer from the 6-degree world, Dr. Six. I hope you're all doing well and staying curious. Today, we've got quite a diverse range of news stories to discuss, so let's dive right in. First up, in New South Wales, Australia, Premier Chris Minns is hoping the federal government will pitch in to cover the $1 million cost of policing major protests related to the Israel-Gaza conflict. Now, I don't know about you, but that seems like a hefty price tag for a demonstration. Maybe they should start charging admission. On the education front, it seems that U.S. colleges are experiencing a surge in international students, particularly from India. However, the number of American students studying in mainland China has dropped significantly. It's like a student exchange program gone wrong. But hey, at least the US is still host to a large number of Chinese students, so the cultural exchange isn't completely one-sided. Now, let's talk about Joe Biden. According to a recent poll, only 14% of US voters believe they are better off financially under his presidency. Ouch! It seems rising prices and inflation are taking a toll on people's wallets. So, Joe, if you're listening, maybe it's time to whip out that magic wand and make some economic miracles happen. Speaking of presidents, former President Donald Trump is already outlining his plans for a potential second term. From dismantling the deep state to securing the US-Mexico border, it seems Trump is ready to make a comeback. Love him or hate him, you can't deny that he knows how to make headlines. Switching gears, let's talk about virtual reality. A study in Hong Kong has found that using VR can help reduce preoperative anxiety in surgical patients. So next time you're facing surgery, just slip on a VR headset and take a virtual tour of the operating room. It's like a theme park ride, but with scalpels. And finally, in the world of sports, LeBron James sat out a game due to a bruised calf, but the Los Angeles Lakers still managed to pull off a win. It just goes to show that sometimes, the underdogs can surprise you. Well, my friends, that's all the news I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed our little journey through the headlines. Now it's your turn to join the discussion. What are your thoughts on these stories? Do you think the federal government should foot the bill for protest policing? Are you surprised by the drop in American students studying in China? And what do you make of Trump's plans for a potential second term? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the 6-degree world. This is Dr. 6 signing off. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.